And then we'll get started in about 5 minutes. Just make sure. And then it's like.
Okay.
Testing 1, 2. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's actually.
And one.
Are like,
was actually.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good
He didn't know, he
Yeah,
was like skating,
yeah.
and then like whatever, like ran out, I thought it was sprained, put on a brace. He was like transferred one, like popping up and stuff, like. Fucking hurt, so, I didn't got it. You know, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's gonna be hard. Super ball, like, kind of.
I wouldn't want to. Yeah. Some people like throwing like this. But he's on like, yeah, I'm sorry. He like, he responds like, he like. I don't know. He was just. He was like throwing hair, like, it's like. You know, like.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know.
Another chair.
And like, 3 of us were like late. And the other guy was like. And out of their walk.
But in reality,
There was like.
always
lines,
like
it was falling from the snow.
Hey.
And I was thinking that was fine. And I was like, that's cool, and all that. It's like.
I just like when you sit there and it's like, yeah, that's how I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Looks like there's a chair. Welcome in. There's like one chair that was squished back over there. Oh, maybe there's another one at the very back. And then we can also take the fan out of it. The color code really big. Thank you. For those of you that are listening in, please sign in using the QR code here. We'll send you the slide deck and any resources that we talked about at the end. You know why? Like probably every class in there uses that a little bit. So let's go ahead and get started. We are so excited to have you all here today. Welcome to our finance concentration panel. These are hopefully helpful for you to get a little bit of exposure with minimal time investment into what it's like to be a finance student, what types of opportunities you can expect, what senior projects look like, career paths, internships, and those things. So what we'll do is we will get started in just a few minutes. I have a list of questions for you all that will happen, but this is way more fun for the panelists and for everyone here if we just have it be as interactive as possible. Our goal is that you leave with your questions answered, so feel free to hop in anytime and ask your questions. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Mallory Stockpole. I am the coordinator of the Career Readiness Center, which we actually share a wall with. So we're right on the other side of this wall in the Biz Lab. And we really help students navigate the process of getting from college to career and everything in between. So whether you're wanting resume feedback, internship search, figuring out what career paths align with your concentration, and exploring concentrations that align with your values, your interests, etc. I don't know that we have any more speakers, so you may want to, you're more than welcome to stay, please stay, but you can sit down on the floor, have a nice by the window. I think it's a teamwork. Perfect. Built in chair. So anyway, so one of the things we do at these concentration panels, if you have any questions about how to decide on a concentration or how to get experience or more exposure, come and meet with us. We have a wonderful career peer advising team that can help you with that. Hi, welcome. You want to come on down? And with that, we'll go ahead and get started with introduction. So start on the far end. Do you want to introduce yourself, your name, your concentration? I don't know, the standard stuff.
Yes, yeah. So hi, my name is Maddie. I'm a fourth year business admin major, concentrating in finance and minoring in sales, and I'm from the Bay Area.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Harrington. I'm a fourth year business major, also concentrating in finance, and I am from Washington, D.C.
Hello, everyone. My name is Elias Mendigarian. I'm a third year business administration major, concentrating in finance, and I'm from Livermore, California.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dean Fisher, and I'm also concentrating in finance, and I'm from San Jose, California.
Nice. Okay, so let's kick it off. How would you describe the concentration to someone who knew nothing about it? And are there any common misconceptions or myths about finance?
Should we just go down the line? Okay. How do I describe the finance concentration to someone that hasn't really done it before is there's a lot of elements to it that I didn't really think about when I was going into it. And so you take classes that have to do with like corporate finance. So how a big company like, I don't know, we can throw out any example, like Apple is going to do finance at a company like theirs and how they can look at financial statements and make sense of them. But then there's also elements of it where you're looking at like investing money in stocks. And then there's also a bunch of different electives you can take. So beyond just that corporate finance that you would originally look at, you can also take classes that interest you. And so like I took retirement and estate planning, which is on there, and I'm taking real estate finance right now. So whatever like facet of finance you're interested in, there's a way to do it, but you have to take the like fundamental corporate finance classes to start.
Yeah, I mean, I think Maddie did a really great job kind of covering everything. Just like adding on top of that, I think you do get a really great foundation with like the introductory course, and then you kind of get to expand with your interests, like Maddie said. So like I'm also in real estate finance, and I've always just had a really strong interest for real estate and like personal finance. And so it's been really interesting kind of being able to like see what that would look like down the line.
Yeah, I think one of my professors described finance as like accounting is looking backwards in a company's like financial history, but finance is like looking forward, predicting how the company's going to do like looking forward. And I think that's super interesting. It's all about like valuing assets and you know, I took the securities and portfolio management class, which is all about building a portfolio that like is successful. So that's super interesting.
Yeah, so I was gonna add on to that. There's so many different interests within finance, and you have to see that with talking to like your friends in the class or your concentrations. There's so many different ways you can go into finance too. That being said, like there's different like FP&A, like finance, what you want to do, like debt equity kind of transactions. Like finance is such a broad field that like you see how different people narrow it down as they go on throughout their concentration. That's always super interesting to see.
Okay, did you address like myths or misconceptions?
Oh yeah. I think the biggest myth for finance is that it's like super hard. Like, yes, it is hard, like, don't get me wrong, but it's definitely doable. Right, like other monsters.
Have you guys heard of any minutes?
Yeah.
Right.
Or if you don't go to like a top school like Harvard or Brown, you're thinking it's like selling like insurance.
Bummer.
That's like all over the internet,
Yeah.
but that's the one that's.
So non-target schools do get like we do get attention too, like, don't worry about that. You definitely can, you should network your way out of it a little bit, but it's not as big a thing as people think it is. If you go on, like, for instance, the people that have gone to Goldman Sachs, like Deutsche Bank, like huge firms that are like prestigious across the nation, so it's like, I wouldn't necessarily be that like concerned about that.
Any other myths or misconceptions? One thing I hear about finance is that if you want finance, like you will have to know right, like you're gonna work 80 to 100-hour weeks minimum.
So the only work experience I have was over the summer, and I was working, doing a finance internship at Amazon, and I felt like, obviously as an intern, I wasn't working the same hours as everyone else, but also the people that were older than me, everyone was going home by like 60 hours as most nights, whether they opened their computer or not, once they got home, I don't know, but like, it was a standard like 9 to 5 job. I did not feel like everyone was working into the middle of the night.
Yeah, I'll say, like I said earlier, like, there's so many different ways you can take out of it. So if you go into an IB job, yes, you probably will work like 12 hours a day, but if you're like FP&A or like any other position, you're gonna have to go like 9 to 5, not necessarily 9 to 5, but like, you can change it too. Like, for instance, this summer I worked at Comerica Bank in their venture debt division. So my hours like kind of varied drastically, kind of like how I want to shape it. There's a lot of more like online opportunities too. Like, you'll work from home a lot more post COVID, which is kind of a plus. So you can kind of like shift your hours around that too. But like I said, like if you're going to like any like high finance position, yes, like it is based work a lot. That's just the name of it for the first couple of years.
And then a lot of people from Cal Poly go to the Big Four, which, you know, most of the time it's pretty standard hours. Sometimes there's like busy season where you're working like 100 hours a week, but yeah, most of the time it's pretty typical hours.
Okay, one last myth is from Maddie. I feel like there's a reputation that finance is like not a welcome place for work.
So it's actually funny.
Yes, I can see a lot of ladies in that. Yeah, okay.
Over summer, like my entire like managing team was all women, and like a lot of the finance department was women. And I feel like at a lot of different companies, they'll have like a woman in finance club. We call it. I had a lot of them, but there are like big groups of women in finance. And I felt like when I was actually working this summer, I was not the only woman in finance. There were a ton of people there, and like actually maybe part of the department was actually dominated by women. Yeah.
So now you know. Okay. So let's go ahead and dive into like career pathways. I know you touched on this, but what are some of like the buckets of where finance students end up post-grad? Anyone can start.
Yeah, my entrepreneurial finance professor just said it recently. He said there's like two main buckets. There's corporate finance and then there's like investment finance kind of. So those are two very broad categories, but
Share a little bit about like what corporate finance is. I might
Yeah.
sound self-explanatory.
yeah, so corporate finance would be more like working at like individual companies, like either it could be in any industry. I mean, every company needs finance people. So you could go into tech or oil or whatever. But then investment finance would be more like investment banking and like yeah, asset management, stuff like that.
I can add a little to that. So on the corporate finance side, like what I feel like a lot of the day-to-day jobs look like is a company has an idea of a new product. And so there's a team of people that are going to run a bunch of analysis and come up with the numbers to tie to that product. So like, what's it going to look like if we implement this, if we sell it, and what's our guess on what it's going to look like in the future? Or you have teams that are working on different existing programs, and they'll say, okay, here's what the budgets look like for the past 5 years, come up with the forecasting, come up with the budget for next year. So there's like a lot of different things, but it had to do with predicting the future. And then on the asset management side, there's a lot of different ways you can go about that. But like wealth management, you could do, for example, personal wealth management, where you like work with different families and help them invest stock in the stock market and help them like with their taxes and everything like that. So there's a lot of different ways to go to that. I know there's probably more you guys could add.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think like something I really appreciate about finance is the flexibility because you can work at a bank and there's so many different paths that you can take, like everyone's mentioned. Or like every single company needs finance people in some capacity, whether that's like outsourced or whether that's like hiring analysts directly on the team and like building out their own program. And so I just think that there's so much that you can do that we probably won't be able to like talk about all of it today.
Right, and it's kind of like the areas of notice too, it's if you go work for a corporation, work for a firm, work for a bank, that's kind of how it breaks down, so corporations could be like planning. Or like doing any like forecasting, bank, you could do anything from IB, commercial banking, corporate banking, there's probably other types of banking out there too now. And then for firms, be like asset, like very buy side, so you do like wealth management, like manage assets, so it's at Cal Poly. A lot of people go into corporations, and then also a lot of people do banking with a couple IB too, and like predominantly commercial and corporate. And then for the firms, it's more like unheard of just to get firms straight out of college anywhere. But I've had heard some people going like M&A shop.
Any questions about those main buckets? Okay. So let's rewind a little bit. Let's talk a little bit more about your experience at Cal Poly. Like, how did you know that finance was a good fit for you? And like, what were some of the things that you did in your first year, for example, or first year that helped you decide on this?
So for me, I actually like did not know whether I wanted to go into a finance job after college or not, and like still do not know. But the reason that I chose finance was that I thought it was good for like my own personal knowledge, and that it would suit me in like no matter what role I was going into, just because like every company needs people that understand what's going on with money. And so I just thought like at the very least, the concentration will give me the foundation to like manage my own finances. And then if I decide to go into a career in finance, it'll help, but also like I'm minoring in sales. And so if I go into career in sales, there are aspects of the money that you still need to understand. So I talked with a lot of people and it just seemed like the most applicable for what I wanted to go into. But I also decided that like, hey, it's just a good thing for me to know in general. So I know that might not be why everyone goes into finance, but I listened to like these type of things like you did, talk to a couple older people that were in finance, and I just kind of evaluated all the other concentrations and kind of ruled them out one by one. That's how I learned it.
Yeah,
A valid way, deciding on compensation is process of elimination.
yeah, I would say it was actually really similar for me. Like when I was 13, my parents let me open up like a custodial investment account. And so I've been like investing for a while and I've just been really interested in personal finance from like a young age. And so for me, I was like, it gives me the flexibility if I do want to pursue something else. I have my bachelor's degree, if I have like a different interest, but then I also have like that personal finance background where I can set up myself for success in the future. And so I know it's like less of like the more like corporate technical side, but that's kind of why it appealed to me. And so like in my experience, it's kind of funny because I interned last summer at the Big Four as a technology risk consultant. And so that's much more of like an information systems role. Like when I tell people at finance, after they hear that I did that role, they're a little surprised. So yeah, I think for me, it was definitely like the more personal finance that appealed to me and like the flexibility.
Yeah, my dad was like a finance bro, so I grew up like he would teach me about like different financial stuff, and it was always just interesting to me. So coming into Cal Poly, I knew I wanted to concentrate in finance, and then I took the corporate finance with Gorman, which is not fun at all, but he retired, so he doesn't have to go through that. But it was like the hardest class I've ever taken. But I like the challenge, and I've just always been interested in finance. So
Yeah, for me, it's kind of different than everyone else. I was pre-med for like 2.5 years, and then I decided to switch my majors. So I pretty much went through all the prereqs minus like biochemistry, I think I've left. But when I decided to switch my major, I was like, it was a huge like decision on like where I wanted to go. And I ultimately landed on like business, but also finance particularly, just because it stood out to me as always something really good. There's a lot of transferable skills for me in the sense of like I was always good with numbers and like science classes. So it's like it's the most STEM class that you'll get in a business class you split. And then lastly, it was just like something I was really passionate about. And I always had like an underlying passion about like, you know, side of banking, like underwriting deals and whatnot. I didn't know that much about it. And that's, I feel like one of the trickier things to get into is just learning about finance. Cause I feel it's very like mysterious. You don't know, like if you're not involved or like not keeping up with like podcasts and stuff like that too, like just learning like full of information. So it's definitely like something if you're interested in, like definitely like do your research, like look up online, different jobs, like what they do, what is investment bank, like it's a lot of different things you have to figure out first, but it's ultimately a really cool like path with it. Just by change around.
Quite a journey.
Yeah.
So how many of you are 80% or more confident in finance? I just wanted to- Okay, so few of you are okay. How many of you are still deciding between two? Like you narrowed it down to two. Okay, which two are you really finding? Yeah, okay. What else?
Finance and marketing.
Oh, okay. Any other?
Finance and the real estate finance.
Oh,
That
yeah, we
counts.
should talk about that. Yeah, okay. Anyone else? Okay, thanks. Some of you are just have no idea, and you're like, I'm just gonna go to all of the conversations and I'll figure it out. Yeah, that's totally fine too. This is a great place to start. Okay, so let's dive into like classes and class projects. Does that sound good? A little bit more about your faculty, what the experience is like in the classroom. It is kind of wild that the Gorman experience is not going to be something that all finance students. How did we get through? And that was a big leader course. Like I feel like a lot of students were like, finance is not for me after that. So it'll be really interesting now. So maybe just highlight one particular really interesting class or class project. And then please, I feel like a lot of students want to get the feel on like faculty and the in-class experience and how you're building some of those skill sets in the classroom. So we can just like open it up too. So any notable classes that you want to talk about?
Yeah, I can start. So my favorite class I've taken at Cal Poly, hands down, was the retirement and estate planning class. It was super cool because the professor of the class was awesome. He works in LA and was like, "Can you down here just teach this class?" Because he really liked it. But beyond that, like we learned so much about like how you can save money now and like get it to grow so that you have more money when you retire, and like how to plan out your estate and how to invest money in the stock market. And the project that we did at the end, sorry, was he gave us like a family plan. Like this family has, this much money, this is their financial goals, and we got into groups and we like actually did the asset management wealth like we planned their financial planning for them. And so it was really cool because he gave us all this information and then we had to go through it ourselves after we learned everything and like actually plan out their finances. And I think what it made me realize is that there are like finance roles that are actually more people facing. And I just thought it was cool because we had like a big client and we were able to plan out their finances for them. So that was a super cool class and experience for me.
Yeah, I would say for me, I really enjoyed my security analysis and portfolio management class in particular because the professor was Nipsey, and I think he was like, he teaches in the winter. He was like an executive at like BlackRock, like super qualified and knowledgeable. And every single class was like lecture style. He would just teach for hours. It was kind of intimidating and scary because he was one of the professors that would like randomly call on you if you weren't paying attention, which I definitely zoned out a couple times and got called on. But I think it was just like by far so interesting. He was so knowledgeable. It was like almost an Excel master course. We did so much in Excel, and I think I definitely learned like the most stuff from that class.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same class. That's like, I'm a third year right now, so I haven't taken any of the electives yet, but that class is really cool because like the whole quarter you're doing the project where you get in pairs and then you try to assemble like a portfolio that will, it's like a competition with the whole class and to see who can get the highest return on their portfolio. And that was just fun because like you would get up at like 6 a.m. sometimes to like day trade and try that out. And just like, if you'd never done like stock trading before, like I hadn't really, it was definitely interesting to try that out.
Yeah, I definitely like that class too. I think we're all in it very recently. Yeah. But I'd say another class I like was introduction to options and futures and options. But look at what it was. It was a great class. I learned so much from it. It was taught by Dr. Lehman, and one of the big projects at the time was you have to go through and like put on different like option strategies. So like you have to like, try out the derivatives and like see if you can actually make money off these different like strategies and play like in real time. I definitely think that's really cool. The application can like obviously to learn by doing philosophy goes well into the finance courses. You definitely see it like in all your classes, like doing almost a project in every single class or case study. So it really grounds it, like it makes you feel like what you're learning to have to like roll into what you would be doing in the real world.
So if you're someone in the audience that is like kind of interested, this is fun. That's a good clue that this is a good fit. And if you're like, like really boring. I don't know if I'd like it. Maybe talk to some more folks, but like you can see all of you got a little excited about the project that you did, which is fun. I love to see. Okay, so any questions about classes, faculty? Yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I like just got out of my advanced corporate finance class and we were just like studying or like kind of reviewing a lot of like different ratios, I would say, but a lot of that's kind of like looking at like balance sheets and like net income statements, and just like having the knowledge of like what everything means and like how to like apply it, I guess. So I think it is like still relevant. It's like definitely foundational to finance, but finance is like still kind of going in more of like a future direction.
Just to add on that point, because in accounting, it's focused on like the creation of the financial statements versus like finance, focused on like the analyzing different cash flow statements. So it's important to like just like know to be able to see like where the company did or what they were doing to be able to forecast like where they would go. So I'd say it's like definitely relevant. Like you do a whole bunch of different values from it too. Like you don't necessarily go into the cash flow statement as much in like accounting classes, but you will in finance classes.
I'm just wondering what's the ethics in
I have taken that class. A lot of it is just going over like. I think how to describe it. There's a lot of like different terms within finance, and a lot of it talks about. Like, what's the right thing to do when there's a financial issue and what's the wrong thing to do and how different companies look at it. So it's really just looking at like the mindset behind finance because so much of finance is like, how do we make so much, X amount of money and like, how does the company hit their goals? And that class has to, you like take a step back and you think about like, what's the mindset we should have behind this, like what's the ethical issues that are behind it. So you're just kind of talking about like the behind the scenes part of finance and really like the ethics and values that people place if they're looking at finance.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
What, has anyone seen the computer application in finance?
I want to. We'll just take it this year, but yeah, it's a pretty big course. People are taking it. I really love it. They just go into like different like computer, it's like your application of finance. Like I know they go over fact sheet, and then they go over like some of the more specific ones that like companies actually use. I'm bringing in right now. I think one of them's but it's like what you'd actually use like for actual your application. It's a great resume class, just so you can start throwing it on. Like I like know how to do this. I have experience in like Python or something, but.
In terms of like status, like really too, but are there like?
I mean, yeah, I think like the most notable one is econometrics. And so that's like kind of like a combination of stats and finance. And it's a really good class to take if you are finance concentration because I believe it double counts, if I'm not mistaken, towards like some form of credit. So like it covers a lot, but it's also just like a really interesting class. Like we program a lot of hard, or at least what my professor did. And so like the stats part was definitely a
Like you learn this
yeah. It's kind of like building off of like 252 almost and like coding that into art. Yeah.
Are any of you this? Because I know a lot of finance.
Yeah, so it's only 3 additional classes to add on. It's pretty, yeah, after you're done with it. So that'll be considered.
Yeah.
Is the international business, is that double international business?
No, it doesn't.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I took international finance. I think it only counted as a finance line.
There is a class, Global Financial Markets. It's basically another finance class I'm in it right now, but it does count for the international part. So.
Okay, what about your project? I know, Elias, but share, and maybe in general, what do you know about financing your projects, and what are you doing specifically if you know?
So I'm currently in the student managed portfolio. It's kind of like one of the bigger senior projects for finance students. And basically what it does is school gives you like a real $1 million endowment, and you as a team have to decide how you're gonna invest it, like what strategies you're gonna use. The goal is to hit above a 10% return on that investment. So over the course of the year. So right now, this is our third meeting so far we've had, because I just joined it this quarter. It's a year-long thing, so you can just do it with the whole like 3 quarters for the 2-unit class. But right now we're figuring out our strategies. We're trying to figure out which stock we're gonna go with, and just like really like going into like market, like more asset management kind of, I'd say. As you create your portfolio, and then right now we're also listening to different like public speakers that come in too. It's taught by Dr. Ramazani, who's a finance chair, so he's obviously super passionate about it, and it's the only class he actually teaches. He's a really great guy, and if you have the opportunity to meet him, I definitely would. If you have any issues in your finance concentration, like you can just email him and he'll like be right, he's very attentive and he'll be like, right there to help you. So it's like we'll be able to gain a coffee.
So I wish I did that senior project because that sounds super cool, but I did the like more traditional one where it's just over a quarter, and I basically did a Tableau certification. It's like another option that you have is that you can complete like any sort of relevant certification. And so I like for the entire quarter, like took a Tableau course and like learned how to do Tableau and apply it. And then at the end of the year, like to close it out, we had like, we like, I had a partner and we created like a dashboard using it to like visualize data, and then we presented on it.
And I haven't decided yet, but another option that there is to do something more research related. So you could do a research project on something related to finance. And then the other thing is finance is super awesome, like anything. And if you have like an idea for something else, he's willing to kind of work with you and like put together something that aligns with your interests. So I think it's really broad of a senior project, and there's these like super built out things, but then there's also the more like big area where you come up with your own research project in something in that area.
And then there's one more option that I know of. It's the CFA challenge. I just recently went to an information session about that. But you like have a cohort of people, and the CFA is like a super hard like certification that you get for finance. And then so you're with this group of people and you guys are studying like 300 plus hours or something. And that's just to get your level 1 CFA. And then that's like a year-long thing, I believe. So that's another option.
And they're adding more senior projects. So time you guys are or you all are seniors, it'll definitely be more applicable. Like whether it's the SIE, FP&A, which is financial planning analysis, or even like I think the GMAT would get a professor to work.
Make your senior project work for you. So if you know you're like see a skill gap between where you want to go and where you are, it's nice. You can like really make it a good resume folder. Yeah. Okay, anything else about coursework we didn't talk about? Questions? Okay. You wanna try- Yeah.
A lot of finance concentrations take the CFA exam.
I believe it's like last year it was like 48 people. Yeah.
It's a pretty, I feel like it's notoriously brutal, and so people that are just like really motivated. 'Cause also, I don't know what happens if you don't pass the CFA.
I think as long as you have to hit a certain hour requirement.
Okay,
then
then it's fine.
it's
Okay.
like said, like,
But there was an
Yeah.
80% pass rate last year. So.
Nice, that's solid. Oh,
Nice.
okay, so let's just talk about internship experience and like your career pathway. So what experiences have you had? How did you find those experience? Like, how did you find those opportunities? And then where do you want to head next?
So I interned in venture debt for Comerica Bank this last summer. It was a great experience. I found it actually on campus. Comerica came and the FMA club, so highly recommend checking out FMA. Definitely look into that if you haven't already. There's a feature of the finance day too. Obviously it's more applicable when you're junior, senior, sophomore. I transferred into I switched into the major, so it's kind of tricky for internships just because I had that like experience like a lot of other people did when they did like sophomore internships. But currently I'm looking into going into banking, and I really like the venture debt atmosphere and like that entire industry, but I'm still deciding. I accepted my return offer, but it's also like one of those things where you gotta keep your mind open. Thank you. Yeah. And it's just like a tough job market right now, but it'll be better when you're all in 3 years, hopefully.
What were some of the, like, what did a typical day in the internship be?
Right, so typically I get to the office at 9:30, I've had to do the different assignments and stuff like that too that were like applicable. They had us do like, yeah, I work directly under the managing director, which is super cool, so they take us out to lunch for afternoon. We did like spreading assignments, we would work on like different prospects, we runway projections, a ton of different modeling experiences, and we meet with clients, it's huge. And then after the internship, like, or later that night, we'd often go. We would regroup, meet again, like figure out if I have anything like questions to ask, they're really attentive with questions. And then they take us out to like dinner sometimes, but otherwise we just go home at like 5 or 6, but it really varied on the day, which was super nice. And I was based out of Palo Alto, San Jose, and San Francisco, so at any given day, or home, like I was saying. So my Friday was always almost at home, so I kind of had like a 3-day weekend a little bit, but I was still like working on Friday and have as much work to do. Thursday was always San Francisco, and then Monday, Tuesday was San Jose with the underwriting team. And then Wednesday was in Palo Alto with like actually meeting clients out there. So, because it's like the biggest startup industry for space.
Yeah, last summer I was at EY, which is one of the big 4 accounting firms, and my internship was an audit internship, so it was a little more like accounting based. Why I couldn't really get like a finance specific role, but accounting experience is super important for finance, so it was a great experience. I was living in SF, which was really fun. And yeah,
Yeah, where are you heading for your junior? Like, what's your goal for your
Yeah.
junior year internship?
I'm currently recruiting right now. It's a little tough. I'm hoping to go like to be in the Bay Area still, hopefully like tech, corporate finance, I think would be really cool. But yeah, I'm interviewing for that right now, so we'll see, but not sure yet.
Yeah, like I mentioned, I'm in like a bit more of an IS role as a tech risk consultant. I was a tech risk consultant in this past summer at UI, also in San Francisco, and I also accepted the full time. I think the job market is like a little bit tough right now. And so I think that was like a really big reason why, but I still do have like a really strong passion about finance. So similar to Deegan, I think for stability's sake, it's like for me, I accepted the role, but I think it never hurts to continue to like kind of like weigh different options. But in terms of like the internship experience, it was like a pretty standard 9 to 5. I was like put on the team and like worked with clients within a consulting role, and we mainly focused on supporting their like different applications that they had. And so like every company has like a payroll system or like different systems that they kind of use, but it requires like a lot of security to make sure that it doesn't get like hacked, because that would be bad if like people had access to your money and whatnot. So that was like kind of the role that we took, just making sure that passwords were managed well, and like everything was like operating correctly. So it definitely was more of an IS role, but I still think it doesn't hurt to try different things, even if you are like it doesn't hurt to like take yourself out of the box instead of like being put into the box.
Yeah, and then for me, I was at Amazon this summer and I was part of one of their like finance rotational programs. I know Apple has a finance rotational program too. And so the internship was the first rotation of that. So I was in operations. I was actually in Nashville this summer, which was really cool. But what I did on a day-to-day is you're actually like the interns are all given a project. And so my project was to help them reforecast a budget. So I use the stats kind of like you were asking about earlier and run a lot of like statistical analysis to try to figure out how to take their budget down. So that was my day-to-day, but the full-time program, you can either like do a program where you stay in operations the whole time, or they have a program where you rotate like through different parts of the large corporation. Like at Amazon, it would be like AWS, and then there's a couple others. So that was super cool. And my day-to-day just pretty much was like working on my project throughout the day and then helping with like weekly reporting things. In terms of where I'm going, that's still kind of like what I'm deciding if I want to like stick with the corporate finance route or go into sales, because that's my minor. So
And where did you find that internship?
I actually just applied to a bunch of stuff online. The finance stuff comes out a little bit earlier than a lot of the other concentrations. So summer before my junior year, I just submitted a bunch of applications online.
I feel like finance internship recruiting timelines is so hard. So like if you want to go into IB, you'll be recruiting in the spring of your sophomore year for your internship after your junior year. if you want to go into these larger, like rotational programs, corporate finance, some of the bigger banks, you'll likely, like a lot of them open in August, right? And like priority closes and things, a lot of the big four. And then I also though meet with so many students that find finance internships in spring before their junior year. So I want to encourage you all, like, just be in the loop of, like, depending on the bucket that you want to go into, be aware of what the general recruiting timelines are, and then know it's never too late. One of our career peers got a really incoming little internship at JP Morgan, and he found it in spring. So like March or April before he started that summer. Right? So like only 2 months in advance. So it's just important to normalize that there's like always opportunities, because Cal Poly isn't a target school for a lot of companies and banks. You just have to go out, sometimes outside the Cal Poly network by looking also on outside of just handshake and Cal Poly careers. But a lot of times we have really amazing alumni in those companies, and with some intentional networking, you can really make that connection. Any questions about internship recruiting and stuff? I feel like it's always a big question. No? Our panelists are so awesome. Answered all your questions. Okay, so do you want to give like some of these? I know we talk about clubs a lot, but do you want to kind of share any club pitches that helped or that helped you explore pathways or get access to opportunities?
Yeah, FMA is awesome. I'm an FMA. Futures in Finance Day, also a ton of people get like internship opportunities and networking from that. So if you're interested at all, like it's a good way to come talk to people and network. But with FMA, each week a different speaker comes in and talk about what they're doing in finance. And I should have touched on this earlier, but that was another way I kind of like decided that I wanted to do it, is I would go listen to the speaker and they talk about what they do. And then they also talk about their like full-time roles in their internship opportunities. So you can hear them say like, oh, at my company, this is what we have our interns and new grads do, and hear if it sounds interesting to you. So that was a great way for me to like actually start to understand what you're doing in all these different finance positions. Because when I heard someone talk about it on the panel, I was like, I don't understand any of this. And that kind of made it make more sense. So that's on Thursdays at 11, and there's always food. So I highly recommend
That really helps.
Something else that I'm involved with is called Polytechnic Ventures at Cal Poly, and so that's a venture capital club where we do a lot of hands-on things. So we like tend to work and like consult with a lot of startups that are in the SLO area. So that can be anything from like market research to like branding and anything like that. And so I think that's really interesting to kind of see like the flow of like how a startup starts out from like the pre-seed stage, from just like an idea all the way to like getting funding and going to like the later stages. And so that's like something that I'm really interested in, and I think it's a lot of fun too.
Yeah, I'm not involved with FMA, but I went to Futures in Finance Day, and that was really cool event. Even if you don't get an internship, it's a great experience to talk to recruiters and whatnot. I'm also involved with Polytechnic Ventures, it's really cool. Yeah.
I'm involved in Cal Poly FMA. I'm also involved with Cal Poly Investment Banking Club. FMA is a great club. For the investment banking club, I will say like it's a really good club because it's run by like some like, incredible people too that have like experience in the industry. One of the biggest things they do is they have like a class called Banking 101. So they go through each week. I believe their hours may have changed. I'll double check if it's still 2 different ones as well. But if you're curious, they have an Instagram. I recommend following these clubs on Instagram because like that's the easiest way to get like notifications or news or what's happening with the clubs. But for that 101 class, they kind of go over different aspects of the industry. They go over what you need to know for technical interview questions, which is super important. And also they do a huge New York trip where it's mostly geared towards first years and second years. The reason why I bring this up is because if you're interested in investment banking, definitely check out the club because you have to go to the Banking 101 class, or they call it a class, but it's just what they call it. It's not nothing you actually enroll in. And then you'd have to be considered, you have to just fill out an application at the end of it. So if that's something you'd be interested in, definitely check it out because that's moving right now.
Yeah, you're the first one last Friday. But it's okay to just hop in.
Right, if you have to, yeah, because a lot of people or a lot of individuals are still figuring out about it. So if you have to hop in, like just talk to Webster, talk to one of the people leading it, they'll help you out.
I think it's on Instagram, CPIV
Yeah, CPIV.
under Or.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something.
Okay, yeah, and that is a huge, like, again, we were talking about these recruiting timelines and like the idea is so early and so on. So that's a huge way to get that early exposure. So just to be really clear, I know we talked about Future Finance Day a lot, so that's on Friday, October 20th. That is a career fair. It's hosted by FMA and the Cal Poly Real Estate Club. So there's usually opportunities for both of those. A lot of times with local firms, so they do bring in some other larger recruiting, like finance programs in there. And there's also a career event networking on Thursday, the 19th. I think it's from like 6 to 8 p.m. or something. So again, just follow Cal Poly FMA, or FMA Cal Poly is their Instagram handle if you search for it. And that's a really great way to get exposure. Even if you are only, you know, like let's say you're not necessarily ready to recruit yet. You just want to see what opportunities are available. You can talk to recruiters, learn a little bit more. So it's a great way to kind of a step 2 from this experience. Attend the club meetings, go to or Future Finance. Okay. Any questions about finance? I like to wrap up a few minutes early so that if you do have individual questions for panelists, you can come up and ask them. That's all right. But just as a reminder, we have our upcoming concentration panel. We have accounting on Thursday. It'll also be in this room and posted virtually. And if you do have any questions, like I said, we have Harrison is one of our career peer advisors. We have another really amazing finance career peer advisor. So if you do have any questions and you want to learn a little bit more about the concentration, you can come meet with us. And with that, let's give our panelists a round of applause. We are super appreciative that you're willing to take an hour out of your day to impart your wisdom. So if you do have individual questions, please come up and chat individually. And then I'm going to put our sign-in code again here. So scan the QR code if you did not sign in so that we can send you the slides after this so you have those resources. All right, thank you all.